mountains are still buried. But the snow line's going up every day. I mean, today I got up to 11,000 feet, so I was up pretty high today. So just depends on your exposure where you go. But
Yeah.
it's melting fast though, so it's not muddy, thankfully. Mud in western Colorado can be really horrifying.
Yeah.
It just sticks to you like glue.
Yeah, I spent a couple summers in Leadville, and then Jimmy and I lived there for a full year in 2018. So we got to experience all of that
Hmm.
the high country has to offer through the winter and into the spring.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet out here.
Yeah, we're hoping to get back there someday soon.
Doors always
Uh,
open.
yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it. All right, so we are back on the trail today. We are with the speed goat himself, Karl Meltzer. If you don't know about Karl, Karl is one of the most legendary ultramarathoners. He has 84 100-mile finishes, correct?
That's correct. 84. Yep.
50 wins,
50 wins is also correct.
spanning 22 consecutive years of winning 100.
Correct again.
All right. 72 ultramarathon wins in total.
I think I have 75, but
75, I'm sorry.
it's funny. Time goes by, and I tally them up, and I'm like, I don't even know where I'm at sometimes. So, but I think it is. I think it's 75.
All right. He was the Appalachian through hike or through trail record holder in 2016.
Yep. Going southbound. Yep.
Still has the second fastest southbound time.
Hmm.
Okay. He was the first Hoka sponsored athlete.
That's correct. 2009-ish was the date on that.
You still have the Pony Express trail through record?
Yeah, I think I had the Pony Express. I think that one. I don't think too many people can test that one. And it's also a very flexible route, we'll call it, because I went
Okay.
over the Uinta range. I can go into that in detail, but
Yeah.
yeah, not many people chase that one.
Okay. And newly founder of Speed Goat Running Company.
Yeah, Spiegel Trail Running Co. A friend of mine, actually, the guy who made one of the producers that Made to Be Broken, the film on the AT. He's one of my partners with that. It was kind of his idea, actually. But yeah, we're just trying to start a little store, and we're gonna get some camp stuff going, and just kind of like bring trail running to more people out there, and just kind of maybe showcase the San Juans a little bit in the summer times and stuff. But it's a new adventure for me, so it's been interesting trying to start a business, especially for someone like myself who doesn't really like to work. So
We're going to get into that too.
yeah, it's a bit of a challenge, but it's fun. It's been cool.
Awesome. Well, we are excited to talk with you. It is an honor and a pleasure to chat with you. And one last little through line for you before we get rocking and rolling here. It was 2018, and it was somewhere above tree line on Hope Pass. I can't remember if it was uh, outbound or inbound, but I think I was heading down towards Winfield, and you were coming up.
Mhm.
And I was like, it was like an oasis. I'm like, that's Karl Meltzer. He's on the course. So I'm going to Winfield. And I just said, hey, Karl, how's it going? And I'm sure you've gotten that a lot in the time that you've been running ultras and stuff where people have seen you and they either say hi to you on the trail in the middle of a race. Sometimes they maybe even stop and ask for a selfie.
Yeah, that happens. That happens a fair bit. It's always an honor to be noticed like that because I mean, I'm just a regular guy the way I look at it, and I'm just a runner, but I've seen people, I run all around the country. When I get to the East Coast, I try to get on the AT. If I'm in the Midwest, not the Midwest, but the Central Appalachian, I always kind of see somebody out there that recognizes me. And I mean, it's not weird, but it's like, wow, like I'm just a guy who likes to run ultras, but it's an honor when people when want the selfie. And the same with the shoes. I see the Spiegel shoes all over the place, and it's like that's a lot of times I say nice shoes just as a comment when people go by, and then they sort of recognize it. But yeah, it's always cool when someone wants to say hello or whatever. And I always stop and chat with them a minute or two if it's right. So it's always cool.
I was in a
Carl,
bit
with
of,
the
I was just gonna say
sorry.
I was a little bit of the flow and in the zone, so I didn't stop and ask for a selfie. I was just happy to say hi and keep on moving.
Yeah, Leadville. The only time I ran Leadville was that year, and I suffered at the end. I got cold. It's kind of a long story, but I stubbed my toe really bad, and it was making me walk. and all of a sudden it got cold, so I had a kind of a crappy finish. But that was the big year. Um, 2018 was a good year, so yeah, it's good to see you out there.
Yeah.
Carl, with the Hokas, how often do you see people with those shoes give them the nice shoe comment and they have no idea who you are?
I have well, I see people with the shoes daily. I mean, I'm not. I mean, that sounds crazy, I know, but I've seen people at. We were at a restaurant. The host at the restaurant was wearing Speedgoats. I mean, I see people on the trail all the time. Today, I saw another woman wearing Speedgoats where I was on the trail. But my comment of nice shoes, a lot of times they don't know who I am, you know. I mean, I don't expect that. But I kind of throw it out there, and then every once in a while someone kind of recognizes me and something like that. So it's been an incredible ride with Hoka. You know, the idea of making the shoe was just a conversation of myself and the president of Hoka at the time, Jim Van Dyne, walking around the outdoor retailer show. And I had the idea, hey, let's make a shoe, name it Speedgoat, and it'll be named after me. And Jim jumped on that within like 5 minutes. We had a deal, and then before you know it, we were making a shoe. So that's the dream world of my life. um, it's a pretty cool story, and I don't think that many guys, other than Michael Jordan, probably just had the idea of coming up with a shoe idea. But it's been really cool that they supported me and still support me over all these years.
Did you get a Michael Jordan type contract with that deal?
Sounds probably not as big as Jordan's. I have a contract, but nah, I mean, honestly, I've never been the guy out there to chase the dollar. I've kind of let it follow me, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I've kind of done what I'd like to do. And, how the dollars fall I mean, I'm doing fine. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
And it's just been really cool that that happened. It was just a kind of a random idea and boom, and all of a sudden 10 years later it's like I don't know if it's the number one selling trail shoe in the world, but I see them more often than not. It's crazy how they're, I mean, globally too. If you go to UTMB, that race, thousands and thousands of people, I mean, it almost felt like half the field was wearing them. It seemed that way because you see them all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Where did the moniker come from? Did someone give that to you?
The name Speedgoat.
Yes, sir.
Well, the story is I was driving home from the Pikes Peak Marathon with a few of my buddies. We had run the race and we're driving home and just yakking in the car about nothing. And we saw this jackrabbit across the road and my buddy and I were just like, hey, it looks like a speed goat. And it just came out of my mouth out of nowhere. And I'm like, wow, I kind of thought to myself, man, that's kind of a cool name. And I just sort of bottled it up. And that was the early 90s, so a long time ago. And it never really came to fruition until I I was actually called the Wasatch Speed Goat at the Zane Grey 50 in I think 99 or 2000. And that sort of resonated with me again too. And I said, that's a really cool nickname. Eventually I trademarked the name as an athlete endorsement thing. And you just kind of keep using it and using it and using it. And eventually, it sticks. And then it stuck, obviously. And that's kind of how it started. It was just a lot of random shit has happened in my life. There's just no doubt about it. This even being a ski bum in '89 when I moved out west, that was just my buddy suggested going to Big Sky, Montana to go skiing for this year because I hated being in school. And I'm like, okay. And then it led to this. So it all has basically fallen in my lap in a lot of different ways.
Kind of got your own like Forrest Gump style life there.
Sort of. I mean, I don't know how the hell I've done it, honestly. But I've just done what I've liked to do instead of, like I said, instead of chasing the dollar, instead of chasing the job, I kind of just figured out how I could be a runner and survive on that. I mean, all the years of my career, like even all through the 2000s, I was working at Snowbird as a bartender in the winter. I mean, you can only make so much money as a bartender, and it was okay. But I saved my quarters, and I saved my money for the summer times, and I ran races, and I scumbag it, or slept in the back of my truck. I lived pretty cheap, and eventually, it kind of caught up with me, and then the whole Hoka thing changed my world because it wasn't just about how much money you get paid or something. It's just that I mean, Red Bull sort of changed my world too. When you get associated with Red Bull, and that was 2001 actually. Um, they're a massive company. They promote you. Their goal was to make their athletes' dreams come true. That's kind of what they told me. And it was just like, so whenever you wanted to do something, go somewhere, train in a certain way, they would fund that without even like blinking. Like this was like they didn't have a budget. I mean, they sell 8 billion cans a year. They've got plenty of budget, right? But the bottom line is that they supported me in a way that they promoted me too, which also helped my career. I can thank Red Bull for making me who I am in a sense because the film Made to Be Broken from the AT, that granted that's 2016, much later, but that is Red Bull's number two most viewed films that they've ever made. And that's mind-boggling to me. It's a human interest story. They don't do many of those. They do mostly, they have athletes that are jumping off mountains and cliffs and buildings and things. And but that has helped a lot. I give them a lot of credit for my career and what's happened with my career. And then Hoka, of course, that came randomly from a phone call from Nico Mahmoud, the founder, who just called me randomly when he was in Salt Lake and wanted to show me these special shoes he had, And I was like, okay, I'll bring them over. And ran around the block. And then I was like sold. And then I jumped ship from La Sportiva, who was a great company. They were great people, don't get me wrong. But I followed my passion, I followed what I wanted, and I followed what I felt was right. And obviously that was a good decision. So, I've been very lucky. There's no doubt about it. I hope other people can experience the same thing that I've had because it's been a dream world for the most part.
Carl, when you say that you were chasing just to run, you'd save your pennies from the winter
Mhm.
serving and being a bartender so you could go scumbag it and live in your car.
Yeah.
Prior to getting that contract with Hoka, was there any stress? Was there ever any thought of what am I doing with my life? Yeah, I might be running good, but man, I'm living in my car. Was there any kind of parental kind of pressure to, hey, you got to get your shit together or anything like that?
I've never really felt that way about my life. I've always been like, I like I said earlier in the podcast, I'm like, I don't really like to work, right? I mean, nobody really likes to work. I mean, come on, right?
Mhm.
But I always just felt like, hey, I want to go run these races this summer. I'm going to make it happen. I don't care if I have to scumbag live in my car. I mean, honestly, my life has changed now. I'm financially in a better position, but when you're not in a better position, you learn how to manage your money. I'm very good at managing my money, like how I spend it and where I spend it. I'm not afraid to spend money, but I'm also don't feel like I foolishly spend it. So when I made $20,000 a year, bartending and had to spend that in the summertime, I didn't spend money on things I didn't need. If you've ever done anything like for example, I've hiked the long trail with just like as a regular backpacker, 19 days, right? When you learn how to live off a pack that weighs 20 pounds, you've got one spoon, you've got, very minimal things. You learn how to be, I don't know if minimalist is maybe a little extreme, but I mean, I could be a minimalist if I really wanted to and live off almost nothing. It's pretty easy if you really think about it. I think in life, people want too many toys and too many things, and that comes with making money, right? I mean, you have to be able to afford those things, but I don't really think I need much, you know. I have more now, but that's because financially is better. But when you don't make a lot of money and you learn how to live off minimal things, off a little amount of money, and I was very good at that. By saving those quarters, I mean, a funny example, I even said it to a friend yesterday that when I did my bank when I was a bartender, I broke the $10 quarter sleeve, and I'd put that in the 1800, the Cuervo 1800 bottle. And at the end of the season, I'd have like 10 of those full, and each one had about 125 bucks in it. So I would have like 1,500 bucks of quarters, right? That was a silly, stupid way of me saving money, but that 1,500 bucks went a long way back then. When you live in I rented with friends and stuff, and so I didn't pay really high rent. My rent was 135 bucks in the 90s when I was skiing. So I was very smart with the minimal amount of money that I had. And I think when you learn how to do that, life becomes a lot easier. And then you can follow your passions without always thinking about what am I doing with my life? I mean, I might die tomorrow. I mean, who's to say that you or I might just be dead tomorrow? So I kind of live life to the fullest without being crazy or stupid, I think. I don't take too many risks, but but I think life comes first as opposed to like saving my money for my retirement. I mean, you don't can't take it with you. So what's the point of like saving it for when you're 70? That's the kind of way I look at it, you know. I might be hurting when I'm 70, who knows? But I'll find that out when the time comes. I'll let that time tell me when it comes.
I appreciate that perspective and that wisdom. I try to remind myself stuff like that. I feel like you play it off a little bit better than I do at times. So I appreciate that. And you said you originally went out to Big Sky, I believe it was,
Hmm.
for the ski season because you didn't like school.
Yeah.
Did you run in school? Is that when your running started?
I ran in high school. I ran in even before high school. My dad was a runner with his neighbor. I mean, they ran 10Ks, things like that. And I kind of followed him around. My dad took me skiing every single weekend from probably age 5. So I grew up skiing. I grew up on skis basically. We ended up in Jackson Hole, not Big Sky. Big Sky was the first suggestion, but we ended up in Jackson Hole, which turned out to be Salt Lake City at Snowbird and Alta. But I ran in high school. I was a good runner in high school. I mean, we had 4 classes in New Hampshire, which is a small state, kind of a small pool of fast runners. I was one of the better ones, I'll say top 5, but I was not the best. But I was pretty good at it. You know, my best 5K was low 16s, you know, on a cross country course. So pretty good, but not like elite level, you know. But then when high school was over, I worked a year at a shit job and, you know, busting tables and stuff like in a restaurant business. And then I went to college for that 1 year and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I didn't run in those couple years. But when I went to ended up in Utah, you know, I skied 100 days a year, every day. I worked at night. It was fantastic. But then I started running around in the mountains in the summertime. My buddies all wanted me to get a mountain bike, which I did, but I'm almost like, wasn't really what I liked as much. So I started running instead. And then I ran my first race, which was a hill climb up Snowbird, and I won on like 3 weeks of training. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of fun. um, so it started with shorter races, you know, but never thought I'd be into the hundreds. One of my mentors was one of the waitresses at the restaurant I worked at. Her husband had run the Wasatch 100 a number of times already, and she was like, "You should run Wasatch." And I was like, who the hell wants to run 100 miles? I mean, are you kidding me? You know. But then I did it, and you know, as sore as I was at the end of the day, became addicted pretty quickly. And then, you know, then the career kind of escalated from then. My focus was like, okay, I'm going to run this next summer. I got to save these quarters in winter, and I got to, you know, that was kind of the focus all the time. Lived with buddies, bought a house in Salt Lake in '99 with a little bit of help from my parents to put the down payment. And houses were a lot cheaper then. You know, it was $145,000 house. So you're not putting down, you know, like today, $100,000. It was a lot cheaper. So I rented rooms to my roommates. They paid the mortgage. Another financial good decision. They paid the mortgage for me. Basically, I lived for free. You know, that's how I managed my finances as well. So I kind of worked my way into it, you know. But it was, you know, moving west was the biggest thing. And then running, I was always an athlete. I was always outside doing things. I was never the kid that sat in front of the video games, even when there was crappy Atari video games.
Mhm.
I didn't really do that. I was outside playing baseball, running around, running through the woods, riding my bike. I rode my bike to high school, which was 10 miles away in the mornings. I could have taken the bus, but I would race the bus and beat the bus. You know, they had stop signs and stoplights. I didn't. So I did things like that that I sort of like molded me into being an athlete without really like focusing on being an athlete. It's just what I did, you know. I mean, I skied a lot with my dad. I mean, I was a really good skier when I was 6. So like it made sense to become a ski bum. um, it's it was it's a really good path, I think, but it depends on what, you know, your parents and things can always expect some certain things. But my parents never pushed me to go to school. It was my decision to, hey, I want to go to Plymouth State College and go to school. I thought I should go, you know. I was like, that would have been the moment when, what the hell am I doing with my life when I was 20? But that was a long time ago. But I realized very quickly that that really wasn't my thing. I just didn't like it. I mean, I could handle it, but I wasn't I wasn't studying, you know. I was just partying and doing things with friends, and it was stupid to be in school for me.
Carl, you mentioned, following your dad around when he was running with the neighbor and he took you skiing a lot. And also the Red Bull movie is their second most viewed movie. And that's a big piece in that Made to Be Broken is your relationship with your dad and him
Mhm.
being part of the crew and all that stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about how influential and how impactful your relationship is? Our and our mom, they're both runners and they kind of guided us into that. So they've been pretty influential. And as much as they might not like that, I still run as much as I do. They are to blame for that. So I'm just, I've watched that movie multiple times and I love that part of it. And the last 100 I did, I went back to New Jersey to run one so that my dad could crew for me. And we had
Mhm.
like this connection with that. Can you speak a little bit more about that and how impactful that
Yeah,
is?
I mean, like I said, like when I was a young kid, my when I was really young, we were living in Pennsylvania, and God, I was probably 3, and my dad was a patroller at Big Boulder. Um, so I, every weekend I got as a little kid to go ski, but my dad always brought me. He always took me with him, to go that week. He would patrol. I would just be a little kid skiing around and stuff, but he always brought me to the mountains. When we moved to New Hampshire, it was always about going to Killington, Vermont, or Mount Sunapee, New Hampshire, is where we mostly skied. And, once I started doing that, it's like I didn't even want to hang out with my friends when I was young on the weekends. I wanted to go skiing because I just liked it. And so my dad brought me there and he just showed me, taught me how to ski. All he really said was follow me, and which is what I did. And, you know, he, he never, my parents both never really pushed me into school. Even in high school, I sort of didn't really study. I don't think I ever brought a book home once, honestly. It's just kind of funny. But following my dad around, I mean, every weekend, a lot of times he would go run a 10K, so I would go do it. And I didn't really train when I was young. I just did it. But he sounded like, whenever I wanted to go do something that was outside or exciting, he was like, "Yeah, go do it. Ride your bike to school, go ride around the woods, just come back when it gets dark." He kind of influenced me and said, "Go do what you want to do." And that sort of molded me into doing what I do now, doing what I want to do. Um, he's with the AT, like on the AT, like that was a very special time for us because when I moved west, I was 22 and I've lived here all my life now. And my dad's 81, I'm 56, so it's like I've been away from my parents for 35 years or whatever it's been. And the time when I went back and he crewed me on the AT 3 different times, 2008, 2014, 2016. I mean, my dad and I went hiking every once in a while. We went on long bike rides and stuff, but he never really was a hiker until he saw me doing it. And then he turned into like hiking all the time. So I sort of like helped him to get into it too. But he's the one that really sort of like was like, go do what you want to do. Just don't be stupid. I mean, he has been very special in my life. I mean, every time I see him, it's all we talk about is just doing things. My dad, when he retired, he's 65. He was like, well, what am I going to do if I retire? Because he's worked all his life and he's always outside working, building the smoothest stone walls you've ever seen. Always, 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 always moving. And when you see your parents always, always, always moving, not just sitting on the couch watching the football game every weekend. My dad never watched a game in his life, and I don't either. I could care less. But I mean, I think you follow your parents a lot. My dad was outside doing stuff. I was outside doing stuff. And then with the AT, when he got to crew me on the AT, he learned how to camp, um, how to sleep in your truck, how to scumbag it, so to speak. And he loves it, you know. So it's been really cool having just spending time with him out in the woods. After all these years I've been in Utah, when I see him every year, I go back and visit and stuff, but it's not really the same. Kind of wish he lived out here. We'd still do so. He's 81, but he'd still go hike up the mountains with me at this point. He still can. So it's been a cool relationship. I do miss the fact that, a lot of my life we've lived 2,000 miles apart because there would have been even more of a bond, I think. but I mean, my dad's great. I mean, he's always been super laid back. If I did something stupid, like got too drunk at the dance and he had to pick me up, that happened a couple of times. He didn't like it very much, but instead of yelling at me, he would just wouldn't talk to me for a week. Um, I don't know. I love my dad. He's been great for me, and he's always encouraged me to do what I want to do. And initially when I moved west too, as a ski bum, he understood because he's a skier, right? He gets it. My mom didn't really get that as much, but after 5 to 7 years, I was living in Utah. Then my parents really got it. Like, wow, like he's doing fine. Like he's not living out of a box begging for money. I mean, he's skiing every day. I mean, I get to go skiing every day at Snowbird and Alta. I mean, two of the best ski resorts in the world with the shitload of snow, and that's a living as far as I'm concerned. And my dad respected the fact that I did that, so he just encouraged me, which encourages me to keep doing it. Instead of thinking I have to please someone else of getting some corporate job. I mean, I can't even imagine. I sit in front of a computer for 2 hours and I have to take a nap. It's pretty funny. It's not the style for me. So he encouraged me to do what I wanted to do. And I can't thank him enough for being that way.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Was he influenced in your golf too? Is that where that came from?
A little bit. I learned how to play golf when I was about 8. So pretty young. My grandfather was also a golfer. My grandfather played golf like every day until he passed away on the golf course. Go figure. When he was 71. But every time they would come up to my grandparents lived in Pennsylvania. We lived in New Hampshire. My grandparents would come up to New Hampshire, and the first thing my dad and my grandfather would do was play golf. So my dad taught me how to swing a little bit at the driving range. And then as I got older, then I started playing. And on my first 9 holes, I shot 63, you know, pretty high score, but first time playing when I was like 8. And then I started playing a lot. They bought me a golf membership at a golf course close to New Hampshire, and I played every day. And then I was on the golf team at my high school, and I was, best golfer on the golf team. And then I was second in the junior championship in New Hampshire. I was pretty good. But I played a lot. They just bought me the membership, which at the time was like $80. And I would ride my bike to the golf course in the summer. I would play 45 holes of golf or 54 holes every single day. Ride my bike home, get home when it got dark. I go to bed, wake up, and do it again all summer long. So, but my dad taught me how to play. Um, but once he taught me how to play, we played all once in a while, but it was mostly me that really practiced, and I didn't really practice. I just played. But yeah, I mean, he brought it into my life, and I'm so glad that he did because I mean now, I mean I'm playing tomorrow again, but I love golf. I mean, if I, I've always joked when I was younger, I'm going to play golf on the senior tour, but yeah, that's kind of a joke because those guys are really good. But yeah, he taught me how to play the game, and and you learn a lot by golf. You learn a lot about a person by playing golf with them, whether they're cheaters or not.
Mhm.
Cheaters kind of a harsh word, but it's like golf is a great sport to learn to be with etiquette and things like that. It's just a good thing to learn about life, and I'm really glad my dad taught me that too. My grandfather had a big influence on that too. He was always asking me about it, and I'd go down in the summertime and play golf for 2 weeks with my grandfather in summer times when I was like 13 and 14. So I was into it. I didn't run as much then. I didn't like even when I was in high school, I didn't run in the summer at all. I just played golf. But remember, I was walking 54 holes a
Yeah.
day. So
A lot of zone one work.
yeah, a lot of zone one work, right? And it was a hilly course. So we played shitload of golf. My handicap got down to about 2.5. That's
Wow.
the lowest it's ever been. I can't get any lower than that, but I love the game and I'm glad I was introduced to it for sure. It'll
And you
last
have
a lifetime, it's like goes forever.
and you
Hopefully.
have 4 hole-in-ones to your name.
I have 4 hole-in-ones. Yeah.
Excellent,
Yeah.
excellent.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy.
Do you think the mental aspect of golfing and that sort of stuff, do you think that has helped your ultra running at all?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, with golf, in golf is very hard, right? Like
Yeah.
every shot is different. And when you're younger and when you're really grinding it out, like you hit bad shots, you might see guys throw their clubs or get pissed off or whatever. And I was never that guy. I kind of like, especially now, like later in life, like if I hit a bad shot, it's like, oh, whatever. Yeah, you okay? It's the laid back attitude. And then when it comes to ultra running, um, we all have bad patches in races. That's common. I mean, if you don't have a bad patch, then I mean, more power to you. But of all the hundreds I've run, I've had, 5 or 6 hundreds that I nailed it and never had a bad patch. So I now the bad patch when I have that time, I just kind of laugh at myself. Oh, here we go, and I got to figure this out and get myself out of this hole I'm in or whatever. So I kind of laugh at that fact now. But I've always been a laid back kind of person, like my dad, and I think it's great for life because you don't get upset. I don't get upset at things. I mean, in almost anything in life, I really don't get upset about stuff very often, because it's not worth it. It's not worth my time to be pissed off about something. And wait, why? Right? There's other things in life to do than be worry about shit that happens that you can't control. So I just push that aside. If I'm in an argument with my wife or someone else for that matter, and it's not going to where I'll walk away. I'm like, screw this, I'm out, I don't want to deal with it. So I just walk away. I think it's been really good for me to have my life like that. I can't be bothered with bullshit. I just, don't worry about things too often.
Sage wisdom
Carl,
from the speed goat.
yes, yep. Carl, is there a ultra that you do or have done because there's really good golf courses? And is there a place that has good running trails and good golf courses?
That's a good question. I've played a lot of really good golf courses. Um, but no, I mean, that's a hard question. I haven't really, that's a hard question for me to answer. I don't know if I've really gone to a race because there's good courses there. I mean, I played Cypress Point, I played Pebble, I played a lot of really good places, and running has taken me to some of those places. Running, I did a talk at more of a question and answer at the Northern California Golf Superintendent's luncheon or something. And so I was like, huh, what? These guys want me to talk here? But because I was able to do that, I played San Fran, Cal Club, Cypress, um, Jesus, San Fran Club, and Cinnabar, 5 really great courses in California. So I jumped on that opportunity, like, well, we can't pay you very much money to come talk, but you can play these golf courses. I'm like, I'm in. The running took me to that. When I went to Doral, when I played Doral, I played the Blue Monster at Doral, in Florida. I did another kind of like talk thing in Miami, and it was with Red Bull. They set that up, and they said, "Well, what do you want to do when you're in Miami?" So I want to play Doral. So they hooked it up, and I played Doral. $700 later, I played Doral. I would never pay that much money to play golf, even there, but I was able to play golf because of running. I worked at Muirfield Village 2 years ago, and that tournament is this week. 2 years ago this week, I was the guy doing the stimp meter and measuring the density of the greens because I met the guy in California that does that kind of job. So I've done some cool things in golf just because of running, which is bizarre. I mean, played Shoal Creek in Alabama, another great place because of running. Um, it's pretty cool that that happened because when people realize that I actually really like to play golf and I'm really into it, um, they kind of want to invite me to play somewhere. And I'm just like, absolutely. I push everything else aside, whatever the hell I'm doing. I'm like, I'm going to Muirfield, or I'm going to Doral. I'm out of here. I want to play golf. So running has helped with golf a little bit for me. Absolutely.
You ever play Torrey Pines?
Have not played Torrey.
No.
Torrey's public too. I mean, you can, I know that one's on the list for sure. There's a lot of courses on the list, right? But it's been a pleasure to play places like, I mean, Pebble was amazing. I mean, it's expensive, but man, that place is incredible. Cypress Point is like nobody gets on Cypress Point. But I was lucky to play it. But Torrey's on the list for sure.
Have you played the course in Leadville?
No, I
No.
have not.
Nice.
Is it any good?
I don't know. I used to caddy all through middle school and high school. So I played I worked at a Manasquan River golf club in New Jersey.
Mhm.
So I used to get to play on employee day, but I never found my groove with it like you did.
Yeah, I know. It's addicting, man. I love it.
Yeah.
They groom the golf course in the winter, so I've rode my fat bike on it
There
many
you go.
days. Carl, Rich mentioned at the beginning of the podcast the amazing amount of ultras you've won. I'm curious how you have had such longevity in a game where there's not much of it, and you're getting what are you 58 now?
56.
56.
56. Sorry for aging you
That's all
by two
right.
years.
I'll
But
be there soon.
I'm just curious how you're able to kind of keep going and not get hurt.
Well, I mean, I have little niggles here and there, as you can imagine. That's running, but I think over time, I'm not a high mileage guy. I mean, I get in the mountains every day, and so I'm getting a lot of vertical gain stuff. Especially when I'm living in Salt Lake, there's big mountains there, so there's always a lot of vertical gain. But I've never been really a high mileage person. Um, I do sort of think that my childhood of being that athlete, the kid that ran around the woods, that rode his bike to school, that used his body in an athletic way all the time, sort of molded my body to being a little more resilient to injury later. But at the same time, you hear about people that are too young that do too many miles. I wasn't doing a ton of miles. I was just doing something every day. I mean, my mileage now, and I'm training for Hard Rocks in 6 weeks from now. I'm training as much now as I ever have, which is about 65 miles a week, and with maybe 18 to 20,000 feet of gain. That's because I can get it in the San Juans. It's easy to get it here. Um, but I think I listen to my body very well. When I feel like something is wrong, I back off the throttle, even though I think that's going to compromise my fitness level for a certain race. I'd rather not be hurt than get on the start line with a potential of dropping out at mile 20 because my knees bother me or whatever reason it is. My goal is to not be hurt. So I listen to my body as well as anyone, and I never overdo my mileage. And whatever comes to whatever I can bring to the table on race day is what comes to the table. And then I just let my body give me what I have. But I've never really, again, I've never really done big mileage. I just stuck with recovering well, not trying to come back too quickly after all these hundreds. I mean, I've done four already this year, but I when two for the 2 weeks after I ran, say Hellbender, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I ran a little. I didn't run a lot, so I don't injure myself coming back from a long race. I wait till my body's ready to really start training again. So I think that's been really important. I mean, a lot of clients that I coach, they'll run 100 and they might feel really good a week later, but I said, you still have to sort of like be careful because usually 3 weeks after 100 and you train too much, then you get this low, you get tired, your body's a little more broken down. You just have to slowly bring it back at the right way. And I've sort of figured out how to do that for myself. It's hard. It's a little more of a challenge for other people to coach them because everybody comes from a different background. But um, I just been very, very careful about not doing any stupid things. I mean, I've had injuries. I've pulled muscles. I had a bulging disc in my back in 2000. That was from shoveling dirt. I don't shovel dirt like that anymore. I learned my lesson. Um, I like to say no herky jerky, which is just a term that I use before races that don't do anything stupid 2 weeks before a race, like shoveling dirt or things like that where you can get hurt. I'm very careful about what I do so I don't really hurt myself. Um, sometimes just being a little kind of a pussy, but um that's
Cautious, cautious.
yeah, cautious. Thank you. Cautious is a better word than that, I think. But yeah, I'm a little more cautious sometimes than some others might be, but I think it's paid dividends in the long run.
Thank you for sharing that philosophy. I think that will go a long way with a lot of runners out there. And I heard you say, and this quote kind of really stuck out to me because this is something that kind of reminded me of Rich, but I heard you say that as you get older with age, when you go to ultra now, you don't expect to win. There's younger guys out there that are doing it, but sometimes, you'll show up and it might still happen. And I heard you say, I'm not gonna hold your hand across the finish line either. I might even try to break you the last 10 miles. So how do you have that competitive edge still, but as you get older, kind of let go of winning and be okay with it?
Yeah, I mean, you have to understand, like when you get, when you're 56, it's like you win all the 22 years in a row. If you won 100, you won all people get on the line and like, oh, Carl, you have a chance to win. I'm like, no, I'm 56. Trust me, I'm a lot slower than I used to be, especially uphill. I can still descend all right, but uphill is just slower. But I've learned to understand that. And like with Lovett this year that I won, like I said, like if I'm running my own race and I'm just cruising along, and if I'm in it at mile 20, you're damn right I'm going to race to win if I feel like I have my chance, and I'm not going to hold your hand because I don't think tying is really it's not it's kind of like a half a win. That's kind of bailing out for both people, not just me. It'd be both of us, that go across the line together. So I'm a competitor, I mean, I winning if winning is never gets old. So if I'm in 5 miles to go with somebody and this guy says, "Hey, let's just cross the line together," I'm be like, "No," or maybe I'll say yes, and then I'll kick him in the last 200 meters and beat him. I haven't done that yet, but but yeah, I mean, I'm a competitor like anyone else. I mean, the reason I've won a lot is because I'm a competitor. I want to win. I mean, there's been a lot of races that have been reasonably close to the end, or when you're leading, you really don't know where the guy is behind you. So you're a competitor and you run hard to the end. It's never gets old, whether it's a small race or it's UTMB or Western States or Hard Rock or whatever, it's still winning, and it's still fun to be out there competing against others, whether you're, so much slower than you used to be. My best time at Hard Rock now is 24:38, but that was 2009, I think. I'm hard pressed to ride 35 hours this year, probably, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm about there having the experience being out there. The fact that I can still do it is cool. I mean, a lot of guys give up at age 50. There's only a few of us left. Jeff Browning is one of them. Paul Terranova is another one. Mike Wardian's another one.
Mhm.
Myself. There's a number of other guys that are quick in their 50s too, but we're all still getting after it. And I think we all have to accept the fact that we're not going to get faster. I don't care how much harder I train. I'm not going to get faster. I'm not going to go run 400-meter sprints around the track to think I'm going to get faster. I can't be bothered with that. I just want to go out in the mountains and have fun with it now. And the goal of finishing 100 hundreds is a different perspective too, because like at Hellbender 3 weeks ago, I walked the last 10 miles or so, and it's a gravel road. It's not a hard section at all. Most of it's downhill, but I walked in order. I knew I was going to finish, obviously, and I was just like, why beat myself up more? Whether I come in 10th or 15th place, I really could care less. That doesn't matter to me anymore. It's a matter of like, I want to get to that 100 hundreds. It's not going to be easy. I still have 16 to go. Should take me a couple years if I don't hurt myself. But you just have to change your perspective when you get older and understand that life is what it is and it goes fast. And I can't even imagine running 25 hours at Hard Rock now. I mean, I can't hold that pace for 6 miles on the course, right now because I'm just older. My lung capacity isn't as good as it used to be. I'm just a little bit slower, I feel like I train just as hard, but bottom line is, you know, father time catches up with everybody. So you can't beat father time.
Well, Carl, I'm going to take the under on 35 hours for your finish. Just
I
I'm
think I
going
can
to
do 35. I
I'm
mean,
going to Vegas with that.
yeah, I mean, I think I can do 35. And the way the training's going, it's been okay. I will do a lot of not a lot of mileage, but a lot of vertical until about the end of June. And then I'm just going to like, you know, not chill out, but I mean, I'm going to really rest going
Be
into it.
cautious.
Be cautious, no herky jerky. And, and, and I'm really not going to run a ton those last 2 weeks. I'll let my body rest for at this point. I can't recover as quickly as I used to. So I need more rest. I really do. I mean, I take a nap every day for like an hour and a half. which is cool. I'm able to do that because after my runs, I'm tired, you know. I try to like help myself recover as best as I can because that you just can't recover as fast as I used to. I can't do it. So I have to think focus of like get on that start line of Hard Rock as fresh as I can be and then see what happens, you know. We'll see. I mean, 35, I'd be psyched at 35. If I go over 35, I might be a little disappointed, but there's also an outside chance I'd break 30, but I'd really have to have a super banner day, and it would probably have to be cooler conditions. Um, it's cooler in the San Juans, but it's today was 87 degrees in Uray. It's pretty warm still,
Wow.
so that's pretty hot for Uray. But you know, if it's cool and the conditions are ripe, and I feel really fresh, then there's a slight chance 30's there. But I'm not, you know, if I don't do it, I'm not gonna go walk away with my tail between my legs. Finishing is what's important more than anything.
Yeah. So you got Hard Rock in 6 weeks. You had Hellbender 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if there's anyone that can settle this debate, it's you. East Coast or West Coast trails, which ones are harder?
Well, I think if you go on the East Coast, if you go in New England, they are the hardest. There's no debate. Don't even talk to me about it. No debate. I don't care about altitude either. Um, Generally speaking, most East Coast trails are more rooty. You have humidity. West, you really don't. That makes it harder. They're slippery. You know, a lot of the trails they're just as steep as the West. There's no question about that. I mean, Hard Rock is unique. I mean, everything out here is like 1,000 feet per mile, so it's a little steeper here in the San Juans, but in general, um, I like to say there's a lot more douche grade running out in the West than the East. I mean, it's hard to say what's really harder, but Maine and New Hampshire are harder. And I don't care, like I said, what anybody says, that's the hardest because it's so ridiculous. It's just fucking stupid sometimes. In the West, it's really the altitude that can mess with you. I mean, you went into Leadville, so you understand that. I mean, Leadville is not a hard course.
No.
Hope Pass out and back, sure, that's a good one. But other than that, it's not really a hard course.
Yeah.
But 10,000 feet, it's kind of hard, you know. Hard Rock, you've got it even higher. Um, it just depends where you are, but generally speaking, I think Northern New England is the hardest. Central Virginia, Mount Mitchell, that kind of area, North Carolina, equivalent to difficulty of the West, maybe. But lower altitude, so a little bit helpful. But it's just different.
Yeah.
But I like running in the East Coast because I like the woods. Again, I grew up in the woods, right? So I like the woods. I love running in North Carolina or anywhere on the East Coast. The AT is a special place. I mean, that, you know, that goes without saying, but I kind of like the East Coast running in the woods a little bit more than out here sometimes. Because out here, when you're running the woods, I don't really consider it woods. It's kind of open a lot of times, you know?
Yeah.
When you're in the trees in Virginia on the AT or anywhere else for that matter, you don't really know what's around the next corner, especially if you don't know the trail. So there's just a difference to it, but they're both hard. I think it's also true. I think that a lot of ultra runners that have never really raced on the East Coast, you know, then like really fast guys. I mean, I'd love to see Walmsley run Hellbender. I mean, he would kill it. Don't get me wrong; he'd smoke it for sure. But it's different, you know.
Yeah.
It's just different kind of running, and I enjoy any kind of stuff, but it's kind of all hard when you're 56.
Yeah. Yeah. I live down in South Carolina now, so I'm pretty close to the Blue Ridge, and
Uh-huh.
I do miss that kind of adventure of getting through the trails and above tree line to getting
Yeah.
into that open vastness of being able to see above tree line. But my best, and again, this is quite a few years ago, but my best 50K is 3:58.
Nice.
And I did a 50K here at Table Rock State Park,
Yeah.
and it took me 7 hours and 6 minutes.
Yeah. Welcome to getting older.
But it's just that, and there's a lot. It was 6,500 feet of vertical.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
So it was and it was a 2 loop course. So it was
Yep.
it's hard. And I've posted this question many times on social media. And it's funny that people will say West Coast, but they've never run on the East Coast. Like
That's right.
you
And
can't
yeah,
chime in on the debate if you've never been here to run here.
yeah. If you haven't been there, you don't understand.
Yeah.
And I've told people about the AT in Maine and New Hampshire, how rugged it is. And I have a few friends that are like Mike Wardian's running the AT this year. Tara Dower's running the AT. Both of those two Tara I've coached. Mike is a good friend, but Tara's now been in Maine, but I don't think Mike's been in Maine yet. And it's you can't even explain to someone that 2.7 miles an hour is fast. Like that sounds pathetically slow, right? But it's actually very quick on the trails up there because it's so gnarly and like Mount Washington area, it's just everything straight up on the rocks, you know?
Yeah.
It's just a different world. Trails are generally speaking, they're kind of easier out west. The grades are just they're a little bit less too. In most places they are. Even the Wasatch, they're rocky, but I mean, 500 feet per mile for me is like, yeah, it's steep, but it's not that steep, you know.
Right.
1,000 different, but
Rich, I know you got some extra to add to the final four here. Is there any other kind of important questions you want to get out of the way before we get into that? We're coming up on an hour here.
Just one last one, Carl. I know you got Hard Rock coming up. You planning on doing 6 or 9 old hundreds this year?
planning on doing 9.
Okay.
Then ones after this will be, if it pans out, will be the Ute 100, which is in the LaSalle Mountains in Moab. Another really fantastic
Yeah.
course, beautiful course. And it's not in the desert low, it's up higher, so it's not really as hot like Moab usually is. That's mid-August. The Stagecoach, Flagstaff too. Oh, I'm sorry, Grand Canyon to Flagstaff um, is another one. It's kind of an easier course, but Ian Torrance, a good buddy of mine, is a race director, and I've never run his race. So I want to go before he bails out. I want to run his race. That's mid-September. Rim to River is end of October. That's West Virginia.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I was told that
It's
from Mike Mason, a
beautiful.
friend of mine. He said that course is great. You got to run it. I'm like, I'm in, you know. And I went to register 10 minutes after it opened, and I was 85th on the wait list.
That's
I was like,
crazy.
oh God. I'm in. So,
Yeah.
um, but then after that, I haven't decided on one yet, but it'll be in early December. It could be Devil Dog again. And that the reason I like Devil Dog is it's the convenience factor is cool. You can fly to Dulles. It's very easy. We know the gig. It's a cool 5-loop course in the woods. It's not hard, but it's a convenience factor. It's cool in the winter. So that would be the 9th this year. And that would put me at 89. And then, you know, from next year, I really don't know what I do. After Hard Rock this year, I'll decide whether I want to enter again. Um, I heard last year when I ran Devil Dog that I got in Hard Rock. Hard Rock lottery was the same day. And I was like, oh man, now I got to run that freaking beast.
Mhm.
Because I didn't think I was going to get in. I thought I had 2 tickets, but I got in. So that's the lineup for this year.
Do you have
Carl,
a one more,
sorry,
Jim?
Rich.
Sorry. Do you have a bucket list of one or others that you want to put on the list to finish? I know you
There's a
want to
couple
do
I'd like to
Wasatch to
get
get the
done.
100
Superior is one of them.
in
Um,
Michigan.
yeah, Michigan
Yeah.
Sped. I know that's a great course. It fits my style. It's rooty and crappy.
Mhm.
Cascade Crest is another one. I just haven't. That's always fallen on the weekend of Speed Goat 50K, so I haven't been able to really do that. But that might happen next year. Um, High Lonesome's on that list. It's kind of a newer one, but it's all high Colorado, so that's
Yeah.
close to me. That's on the list. There's others too I can't think of. I'm not really interested in going back to UTMB. There's too many people. As spectacular as it is, it's cool. But those three, I mean, Cascade Crest, I know is a great course. I just haven't gotten to it yet. That one in Superior because I know Superior will fit my style because it's rooty. It's kind of like Northern New England almost. Um, and it's an old classic. I kind of like Vermont. I'm sorry, Vermont 100 is another one too. Even though it's not really my style, it's an old classic. Old Dominion's an old classic. So those are all kind of on the list. Um, AC if they keep having AC. Um, but other than that, hard to think of any other ones. But they keep popping up too. Like I kind of seek out good courses. That's always my goal is to find a good course now, not necessarily the competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't care if I win or not. It's just I don't want to run some rail trail out and back 3 times. That's not my style. So I won't go to those kind of races.
No Tunnel Hill for you.
No, I doubt it. No, I've Badger 102 is another one. He's like, oh, it's easy. You can win it. I'm like, that's not the point.
Yeah.
I'd probably drop out because it's so flat and boring, you know? So not putting anything down on Badger, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just, you know,
Have you ever heard of Margie Gessick?
uh-uh.
It's in the Upper Peninsula in Michigan. It's in
Yep.
Marquette. It's in I think it's in October, and it's a pretty tough course. It's like you said, Rudy, and it might be up your alley. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know. They don't do. It's kind of like a no frills in terms of aid stations and that sort of stuff. I mean,
Awesome.
you can have crew and get your own aid, but they don't like necessarily supply aid stations.
And those are some of the best races, you know? I mean, I've been a big fan of not having pacers. You know, I haven't had a pacer since 2004, and because I like doing things learning the hard way. I don't know if that's always good for everything, but I've always learned a lot of things the hard way. And once I realized that running a race without a pacer was better for me, um, I was like, I don't want the help, you know. I want to go down on my own if I want to go down, and not whine to somebody else. I mean, I think a lot of people that have pacers, they think that the pacer is going to get them through it, but really, it's ultimately up to you to
Yeah.
get it done, right? So I kind of stay away from that.
Yeah. And I've heard you say that for the longest time. And in my Leadville experiences, first year, I just had a volunteer pacer that took
Uh-huh.
me 40 miles home. It was like an angel fell out of the sky. And then the other two times I've have crew and pacers. And then this last one I did last April in New Jersey, I put out a call and I just didn't, no one was available. So I ended
Uh-huh.
up doing it by myself and I had an unbelievable experience. And it's like you said, like, there's no one there that you can whine to or complain to, and Jimmy can
It's all on
attest.
you.
I've done that a few times at Leadville, and I just didn't have anyone, so it was just like keep moving. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
it's
might
all
have
on
those
you, you know.
conversations in your head, but it was a great experience. I really enjoyed doing it by
Yeah,
myself.
I like the fact that it's all on me, you know. No bullshit. You either sit down on a rock or you keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had brought up at the beginning of the podcast some of your running camps and the running tours. Just before we get into the final four, what can people expect? They come to one of your running camps.
Well, I mean, so the idea behind that was do it in San Juan's, obviously because I live here and I know the mountains really well. But the idea isn't to have the speaker on the nutrition, the speaker on the flexibility, the speaker on the this, that, or the other. It's more of a runcation. So come out, hang out with us at a really cool place. Red Mountain Lodge is amazing at 11,000 feet. Drink some beers with us, shoot the shit, and go for runs for 3 to 4 hours a day. Nothing super long. 3 to 4 hours in the San Juans is plenty. Trust me. But the idea is to come out here, just turn your cell phone off, and not, try not to connect to the internet, and stay away from regular life for 4 days. So that's sort of the theme. And in terms of like learning, the learning will come, or the tips from me will come just in conversation. We don't need to have some kind of formal, okay, it's 6 o'clock, we want to talk about this. That's just never been my style. So I don't want it to be that way. I want it to be just come hang out with us and enjoy it, enjoy the mountains and get away from real life for a couple of days. That's all what it's really about. And then also we'll serve like at that lodge that we will have the camp is, um, we have two chefs on site, so we'll eat really good food and things like that too. It's just about having fun. And for people that haven't been to the San Juans before, it's a pretty mind-blowing mountain range. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of places in Colorado are cool, but San Juans they're a little bit different than some of the other mountains. They're a little bit steeper. They're just vast, and so many places to go. It's just crazy. But I just want to kind of introduce people to it. It should be pretty cool.
That's in September. When is that?
Well, this year we're bumping it forward to 2025.
Okay.
We
Okay.
just because we didn't have all our ducks in a row 100%. So we did mostly, but they're all in the corral, but they really weren't lined up. That makes sense. So we're gonna go to 2025, but it'll be probably in August, and then hopefully we'd like to do one in the fall when the colors are really spectacular. That's kind of the plan forward.
Is registration open, even though it's in 2025?
Not at the moment. It
Okay.
will be, but we're just want to figure a couple other little things out.
Yeah,
It's kind of funny how there's a lot of moving parts, you know.
sure.
It's not just show up and run. It's all kinds of things. So we're figuring that out.
Is it easier than race directing?
Well, race directing now with 1,000 people is a little rough.
Yeah.
Um, Race directing is been great for me. But it's a lot of work, you know. It's a lot of work the last month. The whole year you don't do a hell of a lot actually. But as long as your permits are aligned. But when the month comes out, like I'm about a month out now from Speedgoat, maybe a little more, but conversations are now they're every day and we're, you know, making sure things are going on, everything's in line. And we've got an amazing crew at Speedgoat that has been helping me for 20 years or 15 years, whatever. And so we have a well-oiled machine, but it's time to sort of move on, I think. We'll see what happens after this year, but I'll always be part of it in some regard with Speedgoat. But I don't know if I'll be the race director forever. So you know, I got to retire sometime, right? I don't want to work, right? So I got to retire sometime.
Yeah. Awesome. Ready for the final four, Jim?
Let's do it. You want to get the extra ones?
Yeah, just curious, Carl. I know you said if you had could pick a last meal, it would be pizza.
Yes,
So I'm curious, do you have a preference? New York, Detroit, deep dish, does it matter?
New York.
New York. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, a good artisan pizza. Like I've been over to, you know, France. Like, just you can't get a bad pizza in France. It doesn't exist, a bad pizza. So a thin crust New York style pizza. New York pizza is fantastic.
Yeah.
So definitely New York.
That's that East Coast coming through.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. This deep dish crap is bullshit.
Yeah. And then I know you said you love post race fried chicken.
Yep, yep.
Do you ever do you have a favorite fried chicken place and or do you do like Nashville style?
Well, I don't know what Nashville style is.
Okay. It's like super spicy.
Yeah, I mean, I like spice, so I would say
Okay.
I probably like that.
All right.
Um, but usually if I go to a race, especially on the East Coast, not necessarily on the East Coast, but I always try to find the local place.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of going to the, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken or whatever. I mean, I've done that before, don't get me wrong, but I always go to find the local joint to eat dinner, even before, even if it's fried chicken or not. But I always try to find the local place and ask the locals where to go. And that way you usually have a better meal and a better experience.
Yeah.
So I like to kind of experiment with that kind of stuff. But I do like spicy, so I would probably go with Nashville.
All right. Well, we got to find you 100 down in Tennessee somewhere near Nashville.
Well, there's the No Business. I've run that one,
Okay.
right? I think we actually went to a fried chicken joint after that, actually. And it was pretty darn good. So I
Nice.
don't remember the name of it, but I think we did that too.
Awesome.
Carl, are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you brew your coffee and how do you take it?
I brew my coffee in a French press. I mean, that's the way to go. The other good way to go too is the AeroPress is good too. But just regular, no sugar, but heavy whipping cream,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How can you have coffee with half and half? That's shit,
Hi.
right? All right. So always, I mean, if I'm out of cream at the house, I go to the store. I don't care how far it is. I'm going to the store to get the cream for my coffee. You know, we have our own coffee at Jameson, Spigo Carl's 100 Mile Blend, right? So he brewed that. We sampled a bunch and we figured out what I like best. But I don't like a really rich, dark French roasty type flavor coffee. I kind of like just a good bold sort of flavor, but not overwhelming. And then just hang in the heavy whipping cream is always the ticket.
My man, I love it.
Yep, absolutely.
Carl, do you have any daily practices or rituals that you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Karl Meltzer?
Uh, what do I do every day I don't know, do the same damn thing every day. I wake up, I walk my dogs, which is always, we got to walk the dogs because if you don't walk the dogs, they're howling at me. I have my cup of coffee and I just get my shit together and I go run. And that's kind of my ritual. And from there, that's the most important thing in my world is to do that in the morning. And then whatever happens the rest of the day is it's kind of gravy, you know. I do like to tool around in my yard a lot. I'm always, not always, but sometimes moving rocks around. And I like landscaping and things like that, so I kind of do a lot of that. Um, but I don't know if there's really a daily ritual that I do something every day, but I am kind of on a regular routine, you know, it's pretty standard. If I don't exercise each day, it was either because I was super tired and I just was like, when you're so tired and you don't exercise, you need the break, right? Um, but there's nothing really special that I do every morning. It's just but I get a lot of my exercise and crap done in the morning because if I wait till the afternoon, then that's the chances of it getting done are slimmer and slimmer as the day goes on.
Do you go with the Speedgoat blend with your coffee?
Yeah, always. I mean, yeah. I mean, I like other stuff too. You know, every once in a while we'll get something different. They'll have a special batch of Ethiopia, some other one, or they'll send me something different. But I mean, I like mostly all coffee. I mean, I used to drink before we had my own thing. I mean, I was drinking freaking Maxwell House. I made it in a French press, but it was still Maxwell House, right? It was just terrible. But I can do that too. Like if I really have to drink the crap, like I can drink Natty Light too, as opposed to like what I like is like a pale ale. I can drink the crap too if I really just want to. But I mean, I like beer, so I drink too much beer. Yeah, it might be a ritual.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I like all kinds of things. I can, but I gotta if I don't have the cream, it's not the same,
I
you
hear
know.
you. How's the green and the fairway coming along on the new property?
How's the fairway coming?
I heard you mention you might be putting a green.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, right. Well, that's my vision. I have a
That's your
vision of
vision.
I
Okay.
have a
Okay.
vision of a practice area at my
All
house
right.
here. We do have a great spot for it,
Yeah.
but that takes. I'm not really able to where I live. I'm not really able to water like I would want to. We're on a
Hmm.
mesa, and water's kind of sparse. But yeah, I tool around with. I've got a flag pin out in our field out here that I hit the balls to once in a while, and I have my vision. Um, I really hope that it comes in to play because I really think that if I was never a runner or whatever I do in my life and a job, if I wasn't a runner, golf course design or golf course or we'll call it grass farmer, say grass farmer, that would have been my career because the vision of I have vision like that, like to create golf holes and to create things like that. And I mean, if I golf course design to me would be like the ultimate dream job to me. Because I mean, I don't know if you've seen, but I built a croquet court in my backyard and I built a sled trail in the mountains. And all those things require vision. And like my croquet court is it's kind of silly to talk about this, but I've made berms and hills and bunkers and hazards and things like that. And we have our own unique way of playing. And it's really amazing when we have four of our buddies having beers and playing croquet in the yard. And then in the wintertime, when we smooth it out, when it's as smooth as a putting green, the ball rolls. I mean, it's kind of hard to explain, but it's really, really fun. But when you can build something on your own and then actually play it or ride it like a sled trail, it's priceless. I mean, when I built that sled trail, it would take me 4 days of 8 hours in a row of shoveling snow for a quarter-mile track. I'd buff it out, rake it out, make it really cool. I'd ride it 3 times, I'd buff it out, and I go home. But I'd be up there 8 hours, I'd ride it 3 times. And that's dedication right there,
Yeah, it
right?
is.
I like building things and then being able to use them, you know. So that's some things that I like to do other than running.
Awesome.
What are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
I listen to music mostly. I don't I don't I don't think the last time I read a whole book. It's just kind of sad in a way. I just don't my attention span is pretty short. So like if I'm reading something, if unless it's really really interesting, like I really like it, I kind of lose track. I've always been like that. It goes back to the school days. I didn't like school, right? Um, but usually when I'm running, I'm listening to music. I like mostly kind of jam band kind of music, all kinds of music, like except like hardcore stuff I don't like, but everything else, I mean, I like and all kinds of stuff, but it's mostly music.
You deadhead?
Love the Dead. How can you not like the Dead?
I'm still trying to
A
figure it
friend of
out.
mine that I moved west to Big Sky was a big Deadhead, and before we got in our car to drive west, we saw the Dead at Meadowlands 2 shows in a row. Then we left after the show.
Okay,
So yeah,
awesome.
no, I've only seen the Dead 22 times, but
Nice.
I liked them. Yeah, love the Dead.
So, little Airey Bros connection here. We had Joel Blazer on the podcast.
Hmm.
He wrote a book. He was a deadhead. He also went to federal prison for selling LSD. And so he wrote this book about his journey from being a deadhead to going to this maximum security prison, Marion, in North Carolina. Fascinating guy, interesting story. I would maybe check out his soft white underbelly episode. It might be
Okay.
a little bit better than our episode, but yeah, we had him on. It was a good conversation, a fascinating
Nice.
guy. We also had Jeff Evans on, who is a mountaineer guide. And was it Cornell? Was it 77? Is that the one he talked about, Jim?
Mhm.
Something like, yeah.
That was the one concert that he recommended that we listened to.
Nice. Yeah, and I mean it never gets old. I mean, I wouldn't say I was a super Deadhead, but every spring we went down to the Dead shows in Vegas, in the early '90s. A bunch of us would go, and the Dead shows are great, but the parking lot is the
Yeah,
Dead show, right?
that's what we heard. Shakedown Street.
Yeah, I mean, come on, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, Dead shows were way too much fun. But I mean, it's really a shame it's not the same as it was, but um, I guess time moves on. But yeah, I loved going to those things, and it never really gets old to me when a good jam comes on.
Right on. Do you get down with the John Mayer version or no?
I mean, they're just good. I mean, don't get
Yeah.
me wrong, it's good. It's just Jerry is Jerry,
Yeah.
You can't, you just can't. It's not the same.
Right on. Carl, last one we have for you. Do you have a guilty pleasure or guilty pleasures? We talked about pizza and fried chicken. We know you like pale ale. Is there a speed goat pale ale in the works somewhere, some way?
Man, I wish there was a Speed Goat Pale Ale in the works. I mean, I got to go talk to the guys here at Colorado Boy Pub in town. Um, I, I like drinking beer. I like to work in my yard and have a few beers and do stuff. It's not the healthiest thing in the world to do. I think everybody knows that, but at the same time, I like to live my life the way I want to live my life. I like to keep myself happy in a lot of different ways. So, you know, I'm gonna keep doing that until it's over, because you never know when it's gonna be over. So keep living life.
Do you have a favorite pale ale?
I mean, I don't like a really IPA ish. Sierra Nevada Pale Ale is kind of
Yeah.
would be a staple in my house pretty much. Soon we'll have that on tap because I can do that in Colorado. I couldn't do it in Utah. I will have a tap in my house finally. That type of ale is what I like the best. I'm not a big fan of like the really hoppy ones,
Yeah.
but yeah, kind of a lighter ale is more my style.
Have you seen Founders just released West Coast?
I have not.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in any stores down here, but I've been seeing it on social media that they now have a West Coast version.
Well, we'll have to look at that, check that
So
out.
that might be kind of similar to a Sierra.
Yeah, yeah. But I can drink any beer if I have to. Yeah. It's
Not
there. I'll
not
probably
afraid of a banquet every once in a while.
not afraid of it. That's all you got. I'll take it.
Carl, it has been an amazing conversation with you. You are a sage, wise ultra marathoner full of wisdom and just your passion for living life according to how you want to live it and being happy and maintaining that is it resonates a lot with Jimmy and I. And so we really appreciate your time tonight and we will be following along for sure, rooting for a sub 35. I think it's going to be closer to 30 at Hard Rock and then the rest of your hundreds for 2024. And you might end up seeing me in 2025 at that camp of yours.
Nice, nice. It's a pleasure talking to you guys. It's always great to talk to, different kind of podcasts and stuff too, and tell my story. And hopefully people will understand that, you live once, you die later. So get out there and do what you want to do. That's always sort of been my message. And some people learn from it, some people don't, but I think it's just a good message to have for people.
It's a great message, and I think our fans are going to love it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you,
Carl.
sir. Good luck at Hard Rock.
Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna need it.